Call the general meeting of the Northwest Regional ESD Board of Directors on March 11th to order at 6:45. And first order of business is roll call by our Board Secretary, Valerie White.
Mira Samantle. Maureen Wolf.
Here.
Ernest Stevens.
General meeting.
Doug Doherty.
Here.
Dorian Russell.
Here.
Chris Riley.
Here.
Becky Timchuk.
Here.
And we have Michelle Graham and Paul Jarrell are out and excused.
And my apologies, Stuart. You didn't give me the heads up. I'm sorry. Okay, good. I'm just so excited that we're back in person. So thank you very much. Are there any changes or reviews to the agenda for tonight?
Madam Chair, there is, just to call attention, there was a revised personnel action report that I believe was reposted for board consideration.
We received, everybody received that, right? So, all right, great. Okay, first order of business. I'll just take a personal privilege here and happy birthday, Superintendent.
Best birthday ever.
You're on. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't do the,
Flags.
I was flag salute and so I'm so excited about your birthday. So there we go. So we'll have first order of business is we'll go in flag salute. And our land acknowledgement.
Yeah, I'm happy to. We want to acknowledge that we gather as the Northwest Regional ESD on the traditional lands of the Chinook, Clatskanie, Clatsop Nehalem, Kalapuya, Siletz, and Tillamook peoples, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it through the generations.
Thank you. Now, superintendent report.
All right.
And happy birthday again.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. It is nice to be back together, and I do appreciate the well wishes on my birthday. And I wanted to start tonight by appreciating a number of the board members who have been traveling around the region with me and doing presentations to various boards who every year evaluate and approve or not approve our local service plan, which is the framework of how we work with our school districts. And so it's pretty high stakes. There is a lot of money involved in terms of the state school fund that rolls through us to our districts. And these are tough times. Every district that I know of in our region, every district is challenged in their budget right now. We were just talking about enrollment declines in the region and in the state, and right now in Washington County with layoffs happening around us. It is a tough time for school districts to make ends meet. And first of all, I wanted to thank the people. Doug did one with me, and Becky did one with me, and Maureen did one with me, and Dorian did one with me, and I think I'm missing somebody. Michelle, who's not here, did one with me as well. And Michelle did multiple with Megan Logan as well. And what's wonderful is even despite those tough times, first of all, we had a unanimous, all of our boards unanimously approved our plan, which bodes well and is an indicator for our relationship with our school districts and how they value the services that we provide at the ESD, and ultimately is a reflection of our staff and the quality of our staff and the quality of the services that our staff here at the ESD provide. And that makes it a joy to go out and represent our ESD and the people who work here on behalf of really the kids in school districts who often have the least chance at school, at success at school. And that's where we come in. And so it's a lot of work. And it takes a lot of time and it's very fulfilling. And I just wanted to congratulate our staff on that achievement. Okay, speaking of Dr. Doug Doherty, what you doing there? We good? We
Yeah,
here?
no, Ernest, can you hear us okay?
Doug, can you hear us?
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Yes, I can hear you. I'm not sure. Ernest, can you hear?
yep,
Okay.
It was my AirPods acting up. That's all.
okay, great.
Okay. So Doug had a really amazing honor that was shared with me from folks over in Seaside. Doug was inducted into the Seaside High School Hall of Fame, and I have talked about Doug in the public forum with all of his achievements around not only getting his entire school district safer and kids safer for the future in Seaside and moving the facilities. But Doug led really unbelievable academic improvements while he was doing everything in the Seaside School District, from teaching and principaling and superintendenting and directing curriculum before that. And I was just really pleased to see that he got that level of recognition in the community that he served so well. And for so long. So I'm just wanted to congratulate you, Doug. I wanted to brag about you, and just thank you for your years of service out in the coast.
Thank you, Dan. And that was much more than anything. Thank you. I appreciate it.
As I was preparing for the board meeting tonight, I started to read this legislative update here, and God, it feels like it was written 2 months ago. That it's been that fast of a session and a stop, and now we are flipped from the advocacy world into now we've got to sleep in the beds that were made and try to sleep well. And so we are flipping the script here and moving more towards implementation. And everything that I wrote here is probably out of date, except for the pictures. They'll be forever of people down in the Capitol. I did want to give a big shout out to Kelsey Soltishak and Jenna Jones, who you're going to hear from later, our new Director of Governmental Relations. And she'll talk about the session more in depth. But we were able to get a lot of people down to the Capitol on this particular day that we have pictures, but throughout the entire session, we were extremely active and present and in the right rooms. I'm happy to report that education funding was not cut, not barely at all. There was a slight maneuver in the common school fund that Jenna can talk about, I think, that we have to keep our eye on because it was a little financial trick that we don't want it to see become a habit in the legislature. But in all, schools did well. The thing that I most want to talk about here is that we did not win our one priority bill for actually adding resources. We knew that would be a tall bill to actually get done, but the outdoor school, a restoration of $6 million in outdoor school was unsuccessful. I swear it was not from lack of trying or from lack of interest from a very large number of legislators. The money is simply not there, and the Ways and Means Committee and the governor chose not to tap into reserves. So once the decision was made that we're not going to touch reserves, everything evaporated for getting even an extra dollar into some of these programs that had been cut in the beginning of the biennium. So unfortunately, what that means for us is that we are looking at ways to be much more efficient with our programming. And by efficient, I mean less days are likely for students in outdoor school across the state of Oregon and right here in our region as well. So right now, our current program, and the way it has been for many years, has been a 4-day, 3-night program. It is most likely going to be a 3-day, 2-night program in our region because school districts simply won't have the resources to pay for more days. And so the big losers are kids and their experiences in this kind of cool, very Oregon-y, priority program that people really care about in the state. They really care about their kids being in the outdoors and understanding where they live. And it's a big part of culture in Oregon. And it will be worse in terms of the number of days for kids. But the program, so we've been doing a lot of listening with our districts and other partners like our camp providers and students, and trying to design a program that will still be amazing for kids, but it will be less days. I also wanted to point out a couple of other things here. So as the board knows, we are in a special relationship with Multnomah ESD in technology services, and in a conglomerate that we call the Cascade Technology Alliance, the CTA. And what's amazing about the CTA is that we have the two largest ESDs in the state who have increased our volume capacity to support school districts. So we're able to provide technological services at volume and at most likely very big discounts in many, many areas compared to if districts were going it alone to buy software, develop applications, or have fiber internet or those types of things. So it's a really an amazing thing. The challenges with CTAs, we have two organizations and we have things that come up all the time, like cybersecurity incidents and all kinds of other challenges, like a squirrel eats the fiber line and all the schools go down, which actually happened. And so when you have those kind of emergencies, we need to know who's doing what. And we have two different teams, right, who are dealing with emergencies all the time in their own shops. So Stuart brought in another CIO from the middle of the state, from High Desert ESD, to lead us through a facilitated process and a roundtable and work through some challenges. And it was really eye-opening and it was really good because we have a much better plan for dealing with cybersecurity incidents and things that would like take down a whole system, and people kind of understand what their roles are really well. So I wanted the board to know because we can't run schools without the internet anymore. You don't know who's in the building, attendance, locks, phones, the whole bit. So we have to have our ducks in a row in those unfortunate incidences that will and do occur. So good job there. A little state accountability system update. This is obviously we've been talking about the SB 141 implications in rulemaking, and Chair Timchuk is involved in the rulemaking process at the state board side. Very specifically here, there's too much to talk about every month on the accountability bill. I think you would agree. There is part of the accountability bill is a requirement that school districts use four specific adopted by the state board interim assessments 3 times a year, and report those results to their boards and use those results for improvement. In general, I think it's a really good strategy for a school district to actually have a systematic way of understanding how their kids are meeting or not meeting state standards, and to interrupt those practices and do better and improve, et cetera. With this particular, what has happened here is that the state named these 4 assessment providers and doesn't have a statewide procurement strategy for how we would purchase these other than school districts running out and everybody doing a separate contracts. We have 197 different districts who could have varying different contracts with the same providers at different cost points. And there's just a lot of time and energy that needs to be spent there. So we have volunteered our services at Northwest Regional ESD because we do have capacity and we are good at procuring things at volume. So we are now we're one of 4 ESDs that have volunteered to procure one of these assessments for the state. So we are going to be the procurement point of contact for the iReady assessment, which is one of the 4. And we feel good about that particular assessment because a lot of our districts use it here in the region. I have particular experience with the company from my superintendent days in Hood River and believe strongly in the tool. So I think we got lucky in that way, and now we're off and running, trying to help the state get a good price for our districts. And by I say me, I actually mean Brian Bain, who's over there, Jordan Ely, and Megan Logan. So they are the point of contact, and we're developing strategy to do that. And I think it'll be a big win for especially our small school districts, to be able to buy a required assessment at big volume prices. So little update there. Regional career and workforce pathway. I put a bunch of pictures in here around our CDL program that just kicked off. It is let's just say it is a monster success. This is a pilot. We tried to just kind of get a couple of kids involved from some of our area high schools who might be interested in career with big equipment and needing a CDL to manage either big, trucks or boats or, commercial things and commercial machines. And we had a ton of kids who wanted to come. This event had over 70 people at it. It was our kickoff event. It was really run and spearhead by G. Bundy and Jamie Brady, our two staff members who work with Adam Whalen's shop. It was a really good little litmus for us on developing a program that no district does on its own already, but has huge implications for hiring. So logistics jobs in the metro area are there are, I think it was 15,000 family wage jobs in the metro area in logistics and 0 CTE programs in any of our high schools. So no kids are being prepared explicitly for that sector. So we're really excited to kind of tip our toe in the water. Another one that's happened this week, just to give you a sense of how fast these kinds of things are moving right now for us. We're in partnership right now in Seaside with the hospital, with Providence Hospital out in Seaside and the community college. And we are applying for some federal, some grants, let's just say, because there's an array of them, to start a medical, what is it? A CDMA. I'm going to get all the initials wrong, but basically a medical assistance certificate program. So, kids in high school being trained at the hospital and being certificated and off their way into the medical field if they want. So really exciting stuff happening kind of all over the region in workforce. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent. Are there any questions from board members on the report?
I just want to, sorry.
Yes.
I just want to say congratulations again to Doug. I've been on this board for a very short amount of time, and this is my first time in public office, and I've learned a lot from you, and I'm really glad to see you recognized by your peers and community. So thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next order of business, and that is recognition and good news. Kelsey?
Hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Here we are.
Good. I'm Colleen. I'm the principal of the 12th and Early Childhood Center, and I have the honor of introducing and sharing Sarah Ryan Ahmed, an early intervention teacher with us for decades. Fabulous. And her partnership with Sam at the Tualatin Library in the ways that they have connected to help serve our children and families. So I'm gonna let Sarah and Sam talk about how this got started and what they do every month.
All right. Well, we are really excited to be here. Thank you so much for giving us the time to talk about what we do, because it's something we find lots of joy in. I mean, what we're doing is trying to create a space where all families feel comfortable at the public library, where they realize that the public library, that's my main mission, where they realize that the public library is a place for everybody. And that, even if their kids might run around a little bit or might make noises that they might feel like are too noisy for a library, our library's not like that. Everybody's welcome, everybody. And we want people to feel that. And this program is really helping with that. So yeah, it's been really exciting.
And why we started this is because there aren't a lot of opportunities for our little friends birth to 5 to go out into the community, to be with their peers and experience something other kids can do. And so I reached out to Sam. We had a speech path that we work with that kind of brought us together, Mary France. And so we just kind of talked and let's do this monthly. Let's do it for an hour and a half. And it's open to all kids from our program. And then also Sam puts it in her monthly.
All
newsletter.
kids from the community.
Yeah,
So it's
we
one of
have
those kind of
pop-ins.
situations where everybody kind of gets to come together.
I think we're on our 4th year.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've had little friends that have been terminal that were able to participate in this program. Friends that,
Popping bubbles,
yeah,
doing kid things.
exactly. And friends that have lots of energy and they're welcome to come and we help them with that. It's heavily supported. The room's closed, it's safe, they
Yes.
can't get out.
It's huge, so they can run all around if they need to.
Yeah, and we have a lot of returning families.
It's been wonderful. And seeing some families who even like I see in the library outside of this story time, they've realized that this is a space that's available to them, that the library is welcome, you know, everybody can come to the library and enjoy it. And that's been just a joy to see.
Yeah, and I have a couple of scenarios where there was a set of twin girls who have autism. And I finally convinced the mom to bring them. She had to wear them, one on her back and one on her the front. She came in and had a full-on panic attack.
So
The mom
nervous,
did.
yeah.
So we were able to help her, but she kept on coming month after month after month. And it was a great experience for them.
And those girls got real comfortable. They
Mhm.
they had fun.
And then they would come to the library early
Yeah.
and check out the children's area.
And just play there.
Feel safe.
Yeah.
So it's been a really good, and Dan popped in once
True story.
and danced with scarves. Sorry, I had to do that.
Is there video?
Probably do a little head, shoulders, knees and toes or something like that.
I think it was last year.
Was it a year ago?
Yeah,
Awesome.
when you did your visit with Dan. Yeah,
I'm due.
yep.
Yeah.
It's been there.
Been there as
Yeah.
well, yeah.
No, it's a great experience and
Yeah, a really
every
joyful
great
time.
families.
Yeah.
And I mentored a couple teachers in Columbia County. And they've actually replicated it out there by inviting them to ours. And just to kind of see the lay of the land and how they're doing it in St. Helens. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of it.
Any questions?
Board members, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just comment. Grace, thank you for coming. And I say that just genuinely and authentically, just to see your joy has probably been the most joyful thing that I've experienced today. So just really appreciate how you serve kids, how you bring energy and just love of reading and education to families. So thank you. And thanks for really bringing that energy to us. So appreciate you.
Easy to be joyful around the littles. It's harder with adults, I must say. You guys make me nervous.
Brown
People don't.
Sam is an amazing human.
Any other?
I also want to offer some love. I feel like if there's one thing I love as much as public schools, it's public libraries. And I have been to the Tualatin Library. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I know that there's ESD and library partnerships elsewhere in Washington County as well. And I just have so much appreciation. Thank you for being here. I know we seem scary. I promise we're not. But
You seem
I
like
really
friendly
just want-
adults. You don't seem
You
like
know.
adults fight me or anything. I'm good.
And seriously, thank you so much. Joy. I just have nothing but joy and thank you.
So Madam Chair, may I quickly,
Yeah.
I know it's board time and not superintendent time, but you know, when you have a partner, like a library partner in this case, or another public agency that has space, who open it up for families who really feel isolated in our communities, it opens the world of possibility up for families about how their kids who are struggling can fit into the world. And it's an amazing thing. So I just want to thank the library and of course, thank our staff for making things happen.
Sarah is a
Um,
complete rock star. I mean, I'm sure everybody here knows that. Just want to
She
make
didn't
sure I
dance
say
as well
it.
as
You
I
guys
did.
all know.
Yeah, she's a rock star.
No, you stole the show.
So I just want to thank you for opening up the space and making it possible for our families to be there and our staff.
No, it's a joy.
And I just want to say, again, thank you for being here and we're so glad to celebrate this partnership. And I just want to offer, if there's anything this board can do to help, I think it's anytime we can replicate something when you folks have figured out how this works, how we can share this with other communities and other libraries, if there's any way this board can help that happen, please let us know, because we would love to see that happen in other communities. So, thank you, Kelsey.
Colleen jumped in because I don't have much of a voice, but I'm gonna use it to at least hopefully pull it together for a photo. If that's the next step.
Ready for my photo, Mr. I remember what it's Gloria. Swanson saying that, Mr.
If we did it here.
DeMille, right? Mr. DeMille.
She dug in her husband there.
But I actually did eyeliner. I never wear any makeup at all, but I actually wore eyeliner.
Oh, so we can God and Earth. Okay, let's part the seas.
Clearly a library person. My kind of people.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, one more.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, next order of business, public comment. Board secretaries, or any public comment this evening?
We have no public comment tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
This is Mira, so moved.
A second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Board secretary, did you get the, thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. All right, with that, our first of reports and discussions. Our first is artificial intelligence. Megan Logan and Stuart Long, here we go.
Make sure this is working before. Aha.
We have sound.
If not, I'll be running over there to make sure we have sound.
Okay, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, it's great to see you all. Thanks for having Stuart and I here today. We're here to update you on our work around artificial intelligence. So the first thing we wanted to share is we co-designed and crafted this kind of goal and aim with a co-design team last spring that got together that was from people across different departments who were piloting ChatGPT at the time. I just want to highlight around our kind of goal or aim, which may change because artificial intelligence is changing very rapidly, but some key pieces that we wanted to highlight is we really want to keep this human-centered, right? Like there's some really key pieces about using AI that needs to keep humans at the center of it. So that's a big piece of this. We really want to co-develop how we're using it, what we're doing with it, the supports, both with our internal staff and also with our districts. We have a really big lens on like privacy and equity and how are those things are showing up within artificial intelligence. And with that goal of actually moving educational outcomes for kids, right? Like how can we leverage this tool to help our students and to help our families? So that's kind of the base of where we started. And today we're going to go, Stuart and I have done a lot of different things because this thing's moving so fast, right? And so we probably could have spent like a whole day telling you all about all these things we've done. So we narrowed it down. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to show you some sample deepfake videos, just really to bring to the surface like what's possible with this resource or with this with AI. What do we call it? It's not even a resource.
It is not a resource.
It's a thing.
But it is a thing that's hitting very hard right now for schools as they deal with this, especially middle school and high school with kids as they get older, because this technology is getting used in some cases in really inappropriate ways.
So we're going to show you some examples of that. We're going to talk about character AI chatbots, which is also, so both of these things are very like top priorities right now for schools, both in the region, but also nationally. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the resources we developed, some of the supports we're providing, and what we have planned on the horizon. So To kick us off, I did a little experiment one night and I used these two photos. Obviously, one is of our lovely superintendent, Dan, and then this is Stuart and I on campus at our, right here. We were having our ADCO, Administrative Council retreat one summer, and we had a photo booth. So this was our photo booth picture during the Olympic Games team building session that we had. And so I used a platform called Grok where you can like upload images and then it turns them into videos. So to preface all this, I hope you all know that Dan is a very huge Seahawks fan.
It's
Okay.
been a good year.
Like if you didn't know, he's a really big Seahawks fan. So here is what's possible with Grok. I just uploaded that picture. Oh, we don't have sound.
I have to tell you, I absolutely love the period. Way it wins, it's just incredible.
Well, as you notice, I didn't use a sampling of his voice, which I could have used, right, to make this a little more authentic. But yes, he did say that he just really loves the Patriots. So then I took Stuart and my picture and I uploaded it and I said, have us take off our glasses, put us in Northwest Regional ESD attire, put us at a bar during work hours, playing lotto machines and winning cold, hard cash. Oh, the sound's just not. So there we go. And then I took it a step further and was like, you know what? Put Stuart and I on a trampoline doing backflips in the middle of the Pacific Ocean while playing basketball with Kanye West. Like, why not? Like, let's see what we get. I mean, they get worse, right? Like shields on the trampoline. We don't even really look like ourselves in that one. But what's scary about these deep fake videos, right, is that I think you can very quickly jump to what middle school students might do with these when you're prompting it, right? Like remove their clothes, have them do something explicit or inappropriate in the video, right? Like it is funny, you know, looking at what I prompted it to do, but I think you can see that it really is a very scary thing, especially in schools, especially for our kids. It is changing the student experience at school and also just in their lives, right? Like how they experience the world is such a different place with these things that are going on. And so, you know, deepfakes are these AI generated imitations of reality. And some of them, like those weren't necessarily that realistic. You know, Dan's voice was super off. Like we knew it wasn't Dan, you know, but some of them can be really real, like looking, like, and be very hard to discern. And so the importance of like helping schools navigate this, but also helping our students understand how to spot which ones are fake and which ones are not is going to be a really important skill now and moving forward into the future. And so I think I've kind of hit on this piece, but there's a lot at stake here, right? And like that speaks to students, but there's other pieces we've talked about, you know, as a school leader, like what if someone's really upset at you and like they can take your picture, take your video and make you say something that you didn't say. It's a very scary place to be in.
And one of the things that Megan's not really saying is like, she spent no time in this effort, right? This is a quick thing that was done one evening, thrown together with a picture of Dan and a picture of us. If somebody has the time to spend, these become very realistic and very hard to discern. If they can pull some samples of somebody's voice and combine them, they become very hard to discern from an audio perspective. And so the technology is there to do this thing in a very, very deceiving way, should somebody want to invest the time. And the time it takes, but the barrier for that has been lowered so low now that it's tremendously impactful to schools. So the other thing that's happening at combining with that is this thing called character-based AI, where kids are interacting with an AI chatbot that is characterized for the purpose of interacting with them. So in one that we pulled up, they have an autistic chatbot, and it will interact with you. It will act as your counselor. It will act as your partner. It will act as your friend. But it's also designed to engage in the way social media is. So after we were finished interacting with the chatbot, just like a Chat GPT or a Grok or any of them. This one emailed me a few days later and said, hey, we didn't have a chance to finish our conversation. We should resume talking. And so it is designed to pull kids in and keep them interacting, and none of them have age limits in a way that we would normally consider it. And so some of the regulations that as a board, you're probably seeing come up in legislative conversations are getting to be quite critical. And you're seeing it pop up in other areas where we have national lawsuits, we have regional issues going on with parents demanding AI, and not just AI, but it's leading to a wholesale revision of technology as a whole in school. Not that that's bad, but it's coming from a place of fear rather than a place of data-driven decision-making and what's really being used to help kids versus what's harming them. And so there's been some good movement on this. We had a bill come through to help work on this in the legislative session, but there's going to be more just because the tech is changing so fast.
So that was kind of our intro, our like, why are Stuart and I spending time on this? Why is the ESD putting this as a central piece, something really important to be working on? And what we're doing so far, I mean, we have some things, we're going to share them. It also feels like not enough, like we could be doing so much more. But we're going to share some toolkits and guidance we provided to districts as well as to our internal staff as well, professional development. We've created and trained some chat bots, and we have started developing our website to like make it easy for districts to find our resources. And then obviously last year we really worked with an internal kind of co-design team to help start to spin up what this was going to look like this year. And so we have on the left, you'll see a Foundations for Responsible Human-Centered AI Use for School Districts. So this is a first version toolkit that really covers like basic safeguards and policy and data privacy. It has a few instructional resources, but not a lot. We're working to get a version 2 out that'll have more of the instructional side. We just felt it was really important to have this baseline piece first, and it has an appendix that has some deep fake guidance, just based on us knowing that's really a high need right now. That's a longer document. It's about 10 pages. So on the right, you see our like top 5 things any school district leader should do right now. Like if you do nothing else and you don't have time to read the toolkit, here's your 5 things, here's what you should do, and here's the resources to move forward on those. On the left here, we took all of the integrated guidance, integrated programs, community feedback that all 20 of our districts did last year. And I think we never would have thought it possible to actually analyze that volume of stuff. And we were able to analyze and look at, using ChatGPT, what are the trends across our 20 district region for what families, and specifically with the integrated programs, it's historically marginalized and excluded families that you're engaging are really saying and getting feedback around. And so we have a tool, kind of like a toolkit, I guess, or a key takeaways document now that our team is able to use. And so we're going to have that be the basis of some of our action planning, and how we're having teams analyze that and think about like, what does that mean for my program? And then like, who else might I need to further engage to learn more about this thing? And then on the right, you see some, we collaborate with Clackamas ESD and Multnomah ESD on our AI conference, and also with different resources. So this was some deepfake resources that we got from them as well that we've made available to our districts. And then here with professional development, as I said, this is our 3rd AI conference that we've developed and planned with Clackamas and Multnomah ESD. It's on May 12th. We're really excited. Every year it changes. And I think this year, kind of the things we showed and talked to you about are definitely going to be very embedded. There's awesome things you can do with AI, but also like there's a scary side of AI. And the conference is going to be a really nice marriage of the two of them. So we have that coming up. We've done AI 101 for a handful of districts. We've actually gone out and trained district staffs on just baseline AI. G. Bundy is our main person that goes out and does that. He's pretty incredible. We've done some superintendent training. We've also been training our administrators on a pretty regular basis through our monthly meetings, and provided resources that they can use with their teams. And we're just starting to it will kick off next month, an AI district job alike for our districts to come together and help us design what they need to support them, and also share best practices that they're doing, just so that we have that space to share. And then you've actually seen a handful of these chatbots before, so I won't spend a ton of time on them, but we do have a handful of chatbot GPTs that we've trained through ChatGPT. So there's one that helps you with meeting facilitation. So it like can help you create agendas and slide decks and make it engaging. That's all aligned to liberatory design and all of our best practices that we want people to do. So that's pretty cool. We have our Northwest Regional ESD Equity-Based Continuous Improvement Guide, which is basically the how-to of liberatory design and continuous improvement that's based in equity and can help you plan community engagement. It can help you plan improvement cycles at schools and for your district. And then these last two I presented on last spring to you all, which are just helping districts analyze either all of their integrated programs, plans for their districts, or all of their early literacy plans for their districts. So they're basically for ESDs to use in planning.
So you can kind of see from what Megan's talking about, there's this tension we're living with in AI, both trying to utilize the good and the amazing things it can do for accelerating our work, but also recognizing that there are some significant downsides to it. And we want to own those and try to help the districts navigate through that and try to find the good with the bad and not just be all on one side or the other.
Yeah. And then lastly, we've built, well, Kelsey has helped build out, it's a very just starting point basic AI page, but it's where we're curating all of our resources. We'll continue to build and develop this just to make sure that districts have an easy place to go to find these different things that we've shared with you. So what's coming next? Most recently, district superintendents have expressed an interest and desire for us to basically train parents and communities and families on AI. It's just something that is a reach for them to do. So we're right now in talks with Common Sense Media to come out and for us to provide probably something on the coast and then something in the metro area for families and communities. We're continuing to develop our toolkit. As I said, we have like a version 1, but a working document that's just going to continue to be updated and built out. We're also working on coordinating with Multnomah and Clackamas for some specific deep fake training for districts. We're launching that AI job alike, and then we're also investigating an AI platform for regional use.
Because one of the things we've noticed with a few districts that have really came out early on this and have had to confront deepfakes in a really serious way, that they settled on a platform and then for the kids especially locked out a lot of the other AI chatbots from their networks just to protect them and to cut down on some of the noise. But they really had to have a platform in place first. So we're kind of following some of their lead in this case. So it's been good. It's been a good community of learning as we all race to catch up.
Yeah. And also for teachers, just having, a safe space for entering, being able to enter information, but keep student data private. If you're in your own platform, there's a lot of different privacy pieces that you're able to do versus if teachers are using whatever program they want to use, especially if you're using a free version. So this just can put a lot of guardrails around it. And hopefully if our region is interested, then we'll be able to get some economy of scale in terms of getting our districts, a lower cost if we go in together for something that we're using across the region. And then we can better support if everyone's using the same platform.
That's it.
Questions?
Thank you. It was a lot of information. Thank you. I just want to know, did ChatGPT put the presentation together for you?
Actually, no.
Maybe the grok parts.
The grok part, yeah, the parts that we created with it, but not the actual presentation. You can, there are ones that do it. I've actually really struggled with the slides ones. I've tried them a couple of times and doesn't work for me.
I just wanted to see if it was the irony of the.
But you can. There are ones that do it for sure.
Any other questions or comments for Doreen?
A couple of comments. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have a couple of comments and then a question. I will say I have a couple of biases here. One, I live in Hillsborough and represent Hillsborough on this board, and AI is a huge issue in my community. And I'm also 30 years old. I'm on the cusp between Gen Z and millennial, and at least among my generation, views on how to adopt this technology and in what ways are deeply complicated. So I was really glad to see in your presentation so much of a focus on human-centered design ethical AI and specifically calling out that inaction on AI is not neutrality. My question slash concern here is we know that these technologies were not designed in a human-centered way. We know that these technologies are largely built to fuel additional engagement and are largely profit-driven by folks in the billionaire class. And while it is amazing and fantastic to see ESD be a leader in creating some guardrails, we are having to do this as a district because our federal government has declined to act to provide the guardrails, to provide the regulation for us to have our children use this technology in a way that is safe. Also, as someone that was trained as an environmental scientist, somebody who lives in Hillsborough, we saw one of the spiciest bills die in legislature in this short session, largely due to people in my community who are deeply concerned about data centers, deeply concerned about the amount of water and electricity use that AI is going to be using over the next however many decades. So my question here, as somebody who's trying to stay AI literate, who's trying not to get overwhelmed by the headlines, who's trying to see the great work that educators are doing with a developmentally vulnerable population and needing to adapt in real time without regulation, are you getting support at any other layer of government? Is there anything that is happening that is offering better guardrails at the state level? Are there other communities that you're seeing that are also taking an approach that is really child-centered, that is like doing the best that we can in the absence of federal regulation? Like, this is great work and I'm really proud of what you're doing. And if not for the ESD, how would we possibly expect all of these school districts to have the ability to know what to do? I guess this is a very roundabout question. I have such deep concern that ESDs and school districts are needing to create structures like this when that should be at such a higher level. So what are you learning? Like, how are other agencies addressing this? Do you see other ESDs taking a similar route? Is it the ESD's role compared to other layers of government to provide safety for children when this technology was not developed with the well-being of children in mind?
Yeah, you'll never get an argument from me that we don't need some guardrails from the government. I mean, we could talk about that in social media and in a lot of contexts, right?
Yeah.
I think my experience has been, and it's limited, obviously, in a little tiny corner of Oregon, but we have not seen a school district yet that is going blindly charging into this with their hair blowing back in the wind, thinking it's the best thing and it's gonna overhaul their entire system and they're gonna throw everything. And they want their educators in front and center in kids, right? And the thing that it's enabling them to do for the ones that are out front is to take some of these situations that were borderline for a gen ed teacher to support and make it really enhance their ability to do that. So you could talk about that in personalized learning. G. Bundy has a great story about one of our kids, one of the ESD's kids that uses AI with their instructor to help verbalize, and they're nonverbal, right? And they write stories now through AI understanding them and their noises that they make right through their ability as a nonverbal person. So there are really good sides, but that's where this tension comes in. And so, yes, there are other ESDs we're in partnership with, and I would really encourage you to come to the conference because I think you'll see both sides of this argument and that playing out in real time as people have this debate in a really public sphere. And so it's a really good venue for that. So.
No, I think you hit on a lot of it. We're working with other ESDs who are wrestling with these ideas, where our districts are wrestling with it. Like, that's why we're going to have an AI job alike where we can get together. There has been some guidance put out by ODE around this as well. So there are some different groups working on it. There are some different groups nationally. We've worked with
Info Justice.
ENCODE Justice is like a student group. That's where a lot of our deepfake resources and guidance have come from. And then, but also, who came out to the AI conference last year? AI EDU.
Yeah.
Which is
Ed Advance from.
Ed Advance.
Yeah.
Which,
There were another ESD from Connecticut.
yeah, so there we're also, there are some national, different people nationally who are obviously, everyone's kind of working on it in a different way. The one thing I would say that G has also really talked about, he is on the workforce, department team, but they've seen some really cool advances, and I'm going to totally butcher how to explain whatever this was, but it's going to be one of the Spark Talks at the conference, so you should totally come. But how one of the industries is using AI to like improve, how they're making chips, or I'm forgetting exactly what it is, but it's really cool, and it's something that you couldn't do any other way, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think what Stuart said is it's such a
I don't mean to put you
hard
in a
thing.
tough spot. And to be clear, I am excited about machine learning. I'm excited about AI.
machine learning.
Both in like medical applications
Yeah.
and education applications. There's so much potential for this technology to be used well. I just wanted to raise a couple of questions and concerns because the regulatory environment doesn't give me confidence. And also, thank you for developing this scaffolding in the absence of broader structure.
We definitely look at each other every day and get excited and then get really scared.
Yeah, very good.
So
Yeah,
in the same day.
in summary, I'm excited and I'm terrified. Thank you.
Yes, I'll just address, because one of your questions, Dorian, gets at like, whose responsibility is it, right? If it's not being developed at the core for the betterment of humankind and children, whose job is it to throw the guardrails up? And what our stance has been is, in the absence of anybody else doing it, we are not going to sit and allow Wild West AI use, especially in our small districts who don't have a curriculum director or anybody with who's kind of freed up from the classroom and the school experience to even think about stuff because they are living bell to bell. And that's the role that we kind of play. And I would say that it is the issues you're bringing up are the things that our staff talk about all the time. We have staff members who do not want us to be talking about AI, and they reject it, and they get very angry when we try to, bring it up. And we have others who are rearing to go, and they're experimenting with everything, right? And so in the absence of it's our Northwest Regional ESD right now trying to make sense of this.
Understood.
Ernest, your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for putting this together, everybody. I have like 15 questions that I wrote down here, but I'm not going to go over all of those today. I might follow up with some of them, however. A couple things I just wanted to put out there. Number one, this is my area of my doctoral focus, right? So this is a focal point for me. I was on ODE's advisory committee for artificial intelligence. So that guidance that you came out, we helped to, or that guidance that you just, the guidance that you just mentioned, we helped to put that together. And I have just kind of something I just wanted to just kind of point out and just make sure that we're doing. Currently, what we're seeing is less of these kind of blind overhauls, the way you just mentioned, Stuart. We're seeing less of that. We're seeing more of kind of invisible replacement, where there might have been somebody hired to perform some sort of like specialty service, somebody from our community. I saw one of your GPTs said something about like equity continuous improvement, right? Those types of or like that type of work, you know, whenever it's needed, would typically be, you know, sought out from our community. And instead, what we're seeing is we're seeing a national and a global trend of this kind of invisible replacement, where instead of going out and looking for somebody to help do that work, we're just kind of using, you know, a large language model to produce what we think is expertise, right? And my concern is that we're not is that we're not highlighting that this invisible replacement phenomenon. And over time, we're going to have, we're going to have a younger workforce that is unable to get entry-level jobs because of this phenomenon that we're seeing. So my question, and if you don't have an answer right now, we can follow up later. But my question is, in our guidance and the toolkits that we're putting together, are we making this implicit phenomenon explicit, and making sure that as we use large language tools or as we use generative AI tools, that we are consciously making sure that we're not replacing somebody's job, or, you know, we're not going out to the market where we would have usually sought someone's expertise. Now we're not going to do that. We're just going to use a GPT for it. So I just want to make sure that we're, you know, calling that out internally, and that our training, our guidance, and our toolkits are highlighting this implicit phenomenon and then making it more explicit.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't think we've called it out that explicitly, but that's certainly room for improvement for us, and I appreciate the feedback. One thing we have done explicitly is to state that the humans not only just are centered, but that it is not a replacement for human knowledge, right? It is an enhancement of somebody's skill and ability, and we haven't replaced consulting contracts or anything like that where we seek out others' expertise with this. But what it has done is allowed people who might not have been able to touch those resources, and those are the people we're most actively seeked out engaging, is the ones who might not have been able to access those type of resources in the first place.
Yeah, I think what we've done in the toolkit, and we'll go back through with your feedback, Ernest, and take a deeper look again, because we're continually revising that piece, is really talk about how humans need to make the decisions, right? And humans need to, you can use it to help you do things, but it, again, like Stuart says, it doesn't replace you. It doesn't replace decision-making. It can't do any of those things for you. And so in that way, I feel like it is addressed, but I don't think we've explicitly said, like, you know, don't replace this with that, like a job with that. And so we can definitely take another look at that, but that's definitely the human-centered piece. And that's definitely what our co-design team really talked about last spring, was around how important it is that, like, this isn't going to be a replacement. You know, I think teachers initially were like, oh my gosh, people are thinking, no, there's no way this is going to replace a teacher. There's no way this is going, like, it's a statistical, like, it's mathematics, right? Like, this doesn't have a brain to decide something.
It can't handle human interaction in the way that a human can sit there across the room and read the room and see that, right? It is a mimic of lots and lots of data, and that is what you get spit back. And so, but your point is well noted.
Yeah, and I just want to just I would invite you to look at Anthropic's recent research that came out this week, actually, where they have told people, hey, look, based on how we see people using it, this is how many jobs are currently being replaced, and this is how many jobs could be replaced. And education was certainly in there. So I would invite you to take a peek at that.
Absolutely.
We will. Thank you.
Any other? Well, thank you again for explaining a very complicated issue, and I'm sure we will hear more. Okay, next, report is taking stock, progress on our current strategic plan. Ryan?
Fifty chance.
It was a 50-50 chance. You saw my look. I was like, which button do I push here? Be brave. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm excited to come to you today to share with you the progress on our strategic plan. Last couple board meetings, I believe, I've been here to talk to you about the new strategic plan that the board adopted. This is taking a look back at the current plan that we're currently operating under and all the work that's gone into that plan up to today. Well, up to a few weeks ago. Just a reminder, our strategic plan aligns all of our work, right? It takes us from our vision all the way through to how all of our staff is working. And with all that alignment, we can move great things, right? If we can all get pointed in the same direction, by the board adopting a plan and by us aligning all of our work to that plan, we can accomplish some great things for our region and for our students. So I'm not going to give you the full strategic plan here. It is available on the website. You can go see it there. We will have a few highlights in here. We'll talk about some high-level overviews, but I just want to make sure that folks know where that is at. I mentioned the strategic plan builds the framework on which we move that vision. It is the way that we enact our collective commitments and take action to achieve our vision. It defines the strategies that we will use to reach those commitments. And then from there, it actually becomes the work of departments and their action plans to move that work forward, to enact those strategies that have been decided by the board or have been adopted by the board, and to put action steps to them, move that work forward. So there's an example of what that looks like. And this is a living and breathing process. We connect around the strategic plan and department action plans continually through the administrative council. Up here, we have 4 touch points where we specifically review data and progress. And then twice a year, the cabinet and senior leadership get together to review the progress of the organization as a whole. And I come and present that to you to let you see how we feel the work is going. So I just want you to know it's always going on. And in fact, I'm notorious for saying I think every single month we have something about the strategic plan in that AGCO. As we prepare for the next iteration of the strategic plan, we thought it was time to look back at the process we've been using and make refinements, right? To set us off on the right foot for that new strategic plan. This is the framework that we've been using for a few years to evaluate our progress on the strategic plan. We look at the quality of planning, the capacity to drive progress, and the evidence of progress. And it left some things to be desired. What you'll notice is there are 2 columns there for red and green, and yet there's 4 colors at the bottom. And so there was a lot of confusion around what does qualify as red or green and how much difference is there between those. And when do I rate something as maybe yellow? Also, we found that capacity to drive progress didn't really resonate with folks on how we were moving the work forward. A lot of times capacity sounded like, do we have the people in place, which we did, but it didn't necessarily speak to how we were impacting the change that we were seeking to find. Also, you'll notice at the bottom that good, the green says requires refinement. So the top it went to was, we still need refinement. So with that, we went back and drafted a new stock take rubric that we tried out this year. I'd say this is a continuous improvement process. There were a lot of good feedback around this. It felt really good to people. People resonated with this. And there may be some minor shifts still as we move forward. But what we did do is replaced capacity to drive progress with implementation quality. Are we actually implementing what we thought to do? We got clearer criterion in all those cells to explain what we're looking for in each one, and better define, obviously, what yellow and orange means. in that space. There's a new rating scale where the top says we're on track, not just requiring refinement. I think that does make a difference somewhat when you're thinking about the ratings too. So. All right. So with that, at administrative council, all of the teams and departments gather their data, their evidence. They report that back to their administrative leads, and the senior leadership comes together at a stock take process that we do here in this room. And this is how we rated using that new rubric. You'll see that across all 6 commitments, we rated them as mostly on track or on track in pretty much every case, and a lot of greens and yellows. The overall likelihood of success is also looking pretty good there. I wanted to compare that to what it's looked like over the last several years. You may recall coming out of the pandemic, there was a lot of concern that our overall likelihood of success on these strategies that we had in place at the time wasn't looking good. Things had changed coming out of the pandemic from where we thought we were. There was work with the board on refining our strategies. That led us into, I believe, 22, 23, where we started to see some improvement. And then you can see we've had continuous improvement since then. I did call out that we are using that new rubric for this most recent stock take. And I do want to call out that this is a Q2 stock take, where it's natural to be introspective and thoughtful on what's our likelihood of reaching our goals by the end of the year versus those others are Q4. And this is the part where I want to just brag a little bit on the work that other people do. So there are a lot of successes that we saw throughout the plan. A lot of the goals that we are aiming to achieve, we are getting very close to. We're moving forward. These are some specific areas of work that I just wanted to highlight. First is, for a number of years, we've been using a homegrown survey of staff satisfaction. This year, we have implemented a nationally normed Upbeat survey. And with that, based on the outcomes of that survey, Upbeat is also providing customized coaching to improve staff responses, to improve the experiences staff are having in our organization. In the spring, we'll get an opportunity to again survey and see the growth that we've achieved. So that's an exciting change in that area. Our early learning sites have prioritized spaces of belonging and inclusion, and they're implementing MTSS through a collaborative coaching model. And that work has really has helped more teachers to put the practices into use. And that's what that top chart's showing, that we've had steady increases in the percentage of our staff that are able to implement these with fidelity. And we're seeing improved student outcomes. Down there at the bottom, you can see we've gone from about 50% of our ECSE students meeting age level expectations to 65%. So we're very excited about how that work is changing the way that classrooms are impacting the way that classrooms are happening in our schools and changing the outcomes for students. And the last thing I wanted to call out was the mentoring network. The mentoring program supports a whole network of mentors who support new teachers. So mentors within our districts who are then supporting new teachers in their first few years as they develop their practice. They're providing extensive amount of support, as evidenced by the number of hours. There's a lot of mentors providing that support. And also the satisfaction of those mentees in the way that they're able to speak to their mentors, helping them to impact outcomes for students. That's exciting work. There is a video also available on our website that you can watch all about that with a couple of people you may recognize on there. Oh, and apparently it was going to play. That was not my intent. If you'd like to watch it on the presentation, you can do that too. But it's always about continuous improvement. And so we can't sit on our laurels. We have a whole list of things that the senior leadership came up with as next steps coming out of this stock take. These are, this is the work to move our goals forward to reach our goals. For example, at the last administrative council, and this is kind of a callback to something that Dr. Logan, I was going to say Dr. Logan. It's starting with Megan Logan. Yeah. The director Logan is the word I was looking for. But that's not your title either.
Oh.
I'm just tripping on myself. That she called out, where we reviewed community engagement from our districts, and then administrative council considered what our next steps might be for engaging community around our new strategic plan and moving that work forward. So, continued work in a lot of these different areas. And as always, we provide ongoing updates to you, the board, by bringing you these reports, as well as all of the different programs that report to you their progress throughout the year. And you can always find which strategic plan strategies those are aligned to in your board packets. And with that, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions from the board? Get there. I appreciate all the updates and keeping us on track, and I know it's a lot of work that goes into that. Thank you very much. Okay, our next report is going to be the legislative session review. And Jenna Jones, welcome in person to our board meeting. We appreciate seeing you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For those, I have met a few of you in person at the legislative event that we had here at the Service Center before the legislation. But for those that don't know me and haven't seen me in the flesh, I'm Jenna Jones. I use she, her pronouns. And it has only been, what, 4 days since they ended? I don't know. I don't know time. I don't know words. So please bear with me. It was a long, short session. It was very long. There were a lot of days. I will kind of just start with an overview. The session did end on Friday afternoon at 4:18. Yes, I do know the exact time because as lobbyists, we all bet on the time that they will end. I did not win. I thought they were going to go until Saturday evening because I'm a pessimist. But, this session kind of came in with a lot of uncertainty. So the legislature knew that they were, facing some budget deficits because of HR 1, or the big beautiful bill at the federal level. There were some ramifications on Medicaid and SNAP that the state has to make some choices of if they can backfill all of the federal subsidies there. And then there were revenue implications because our state does what's called a rolling reconnect, which automatically connects it to the federal tax code as a starting place. So just under the revenue side, it was like $1 billion in this biennium. And you add in, they passed this legislation or this federal legislation after a legislative session in the middle of a tax year. So everything for 2025 stays where the feds left it, right? They had to try to make some catch up time and catch up revenue for starting in the 2026 tax year. But you all know there were budgets put together by every state agency in October and November that gave a range of 2.5% cuts to 5% cuts. There were programming cuts that we were concerned about, things like RENS, the Educator Advancement Council, all of those things that were scary coming in. And so that was what kind of plagued this session. And so coming in, the other two things that, the legislature knew was a priority was coming up with some sort of fix for the transportation package that got referred to the voters. And then also passing some sort of policies addressing, ICE activity in the state. So on the outcomes for the state, they did what a short session is meant to do. They balanced their budget. Thank goodness. It was ugly though. I think there were some things also leading up to the session. We had seen 2 negative revenue forecasts in a row. We saw the first one in this quarter go positive. Hopefully that momentum carries in the May forecast, which is the most important one because it is following the bulk of income tax receipts. So the state should have an idea of where they're going. So that was good. That was a step in the right direction, right? Okay, we're up almost $200 million in the state budget forecasting for end of session. that's not how much money they need in an end of session. So they needed to find more money. So how they did that was that they kind of took a haircut off the top of every agency, but they prioritized it less on cutting programs and more on not filling vacancies. There were a lot of supply line budgets. I think someone asked me, Jenna, do they really mean services and supplies like pens and paper when there's like it wasn't $400 million, but like $4 million per agency? I'm like, yes, that's actually what they mean. Or contracting printing service, like that type of stuff. So that's what they primarily did. For education, they held us almost completely harmless. There were no cuts that were proposed from the 2.5% cuts or the 5% cuts. So that meant, hey, our regional educator network's safe for this session, right? That was a good one. No big programmatic cuts to like the state school fund or any big funding sources that will directly impact kids in the classroom. Also good. However, there were a few other policies that were being considered. One, school meals for all, making sure that every kid who goes to school has free lunch or free breakfast. That had a fiscal impact. It didn't go. And then Dan mentioned all of the outdoor school funding, trying to restore $6 million. That also didn't go. So that's the budget kind of side of everything, where we kind of came out better than we wanted. They did find a disconnect package. They disconnected primarily from two provisions on auto loan interest and bonus depreciation. Bonus depreciation is something that we had disconnected from in the past. So it was one of the bigger bucket items to get money back. That adds back about $311 million in revenue for the biennium. So now we're sitting at a decent ending fund balance, right? $500-ish million as the state's ending fund balance. They can maybe deal with few emergencies, maybe a fire season. But they still don't know the true impact on the financial side of complying with all of HR1. So there's still this big question mark. I wonder if they'll have to come back and do some emergency board distributions in the interim. So the big thing that they also made very clear during the session is that they were not going to tap the rainy day fund or the education stability fund, which is a shame because since we had two bad forecasts in a row, we met the economic triggers to access both funds, and they have about $3.2 billion between them. It is likely that the economic triggers, which are largely based on unemployment rates, will not be met going into the next forecast. So that completely eliminates the option of the rainy day fund for the state. It doesn't eliminate the option for the Ed Stability Fund, which has $1.2 billion. So that can also be tapped by the governor declaring an emergency. So we still have that tool in our toolkit as education, but for the broader state budget, they might lose that tool going into the next session. So they could have made some different choices this session if they wanted to. As far as ICE activity, there were probably 12 to 15 bills that started at the beginning of session. They passed about 6 or 7 of them. The biggest ones for schools and school districts are they codified a Supreme Court decision, Plyler v. Doe, that makes it so any kid has the right to access education regardless of their citizenship status or immigration status. So if something were to overturn at the federal level, it would still prevail here at the state level. And then there's ICE notification for when ICE has been confirmed on campus. And the communications would go to students, staff, parents, and community service providers who are on campus at the time of ICE being there. And then the state did some other ones. The biggest one that I think a lot of people were looking at was requiring that all police officers or public safety officers wear clearly displayed name badges and identifying marks for their agency that they're representing. And it limits facial coverings. So there's no more mass vigilantes running around. That may go to the Supreme Court. We'll see. And we, for the most part, during the session, avoided a walkout over transportation. They walked out 2 or 3 floor sessions. It was really dramatic for no reason. I don't know what they got. I will say on the disconnect piece, the same lawmaker who referred the transportation gas taxes to the ballot, has made the same claim that he is going to do it for the provisions of the disconnect package that would add back revenue. So that could be coming. It hasn't been filed yet, but that is a fear at this point. So some other bills of interest before I kind of pivot to next steps. I know that Chair Timchuk, you had asked Dan about this bill during the session, an education omnibus bill, House Bill 4066. It has a few provisions for this board particularly that may be an interest, which is board stipends for the ESD. That bill passed. And is on its way to the governor. Once it gets signed, you can adopt a policy for board stipends if you would like. And then it also has some exemptions from fluorescent lighting requirements. So those are the big ones there. Other bills, McKinney-Vento protections have been codified now at the state level, again, because of worrying about what the federal government will do. The state will pick up the tab for the federal funds if they lose out. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library Program has been in practice, given money from the state every year, but they codified that so that it can continue to prosper. A few interesting bills that didn't pass, probably likely going to be back and kind of over this overarching conversation. There were a few bills around student discipline, teacher safety, that kind of stuff. And so there were two different bills that kind of touched on this. House Bill 4011, which also was trying to make class size a mandatory subject of bargaining. It also then looped in student discipline related to staff safety. The class size as a mandatory subject of bargaining has come back perennially. It will likely be back next session. It is now moved out of education committees and into the labor committee. So there's not as many people who understand education in that space. But there were a lot of concerns. There's a lot of concerns on both fronts, but primarily when we talk about student discipline, I know a lot of people are worried that this could disproportionately impact BIPOC students and our students with disabilities. And so that came up a lot, and that may have been one of the reasons this bill died this session. There will likely be a work group over the interim. And then student discipline came up in a different bill that basically would have required boards to come up with policies around student behavior and discipline. And, you know, if a staff member feels unsafe, like that student can't return to class. Same concerns were there. I think that's going to be a conversation in the interim as well. And then the last one was, I think we all know the quality education model is not adequate currently, and there were people who wanted to change it, but they came up with the ideas of how to change the quality education model about a month before session started. So it drew a lot of pushback when they unveiled like, oh, we want to go through a third-party contractor, we don't want the QEC to exist anymore, and we don't really have a plan for what will happen for 2027 budgeting because this bill has an emergency clause, which means it's effective on passage. So there were a lot of technical details that weren't worked out. That conversation will be a big part of this summer. So that's kind of the highlight. Tomorrow in our newsletter, there will be a comprehensive bill summary with more bills than you may want to sift through that you can kind of read legislative like what happened, what passed, what didn't pass, more in depth. You know, we're going to start pivoting. Dan said this from like what passed and the bed we made to kind of implementation. I will say I haven't even been on the job for 2 months yet. So like I did it backwards where like usually you have this time to like learn a lot of stuff and then go into the legislature. I kind of was here, we threw something together and then I went and did the stuff. So I'm going to be taking this time to kind of learn and get up to date on all of the stuff ODE is kind of rolling out in the interim through rulemakings. One thing I did want to plug is that the State Board of Education will be reviewing performance targets. They will be first reading those at their March meeting and hoping to, I think, adopt them in April. Dan said some stuff about the interim assessments. There's more of that stuff kind of coming. I mentioned the 2 work groups on the class size as a subject of bargaining, the QEM stuff will come up. And then we're going to be in this weird lull where I'm going to figure out my program as Director of Government Relations and come up with an iterative process for how we adopt a legislative agenda going into 2027. And so my plan, one, is to spend a little bit more time with you all and hear what's important to you, spend some time with our regional soups, our department staff, and community-based organizations to build an iterative process of where like our lane as Northwest Regional should be. And I really look forward to kind of co-designing that with you all as the board and your vision for what Northwest Regional does. Few other updates that you may not know are happening. The governor just did a call for trying to find a pathway for universal preschool. So our friends at the Children's Institute are their director is chairing that committee. So we're working with them to see how we can be helpful. That's something to look forward to. Not a lot of details right now. So if you ask me questions, I'm gonna be like, that's a great question. I don't know. But we'll see. The other thing is the governor passed an executive order and it created the Interagency Council for Immigrant and Refugee Coordination. They're going to start doing some community engagement sessions with state agency folks and partners in government to best support our immigrant families across the state. And so schools will be a big conversation in that. Their engagement sessions are just starting off. I think they started last Friday. So more to come there and what's going to happen there. And then this year is an election year. And so there's going to be turnover. We're losing 13 members of the legislature. So we'll see who comes in there. There's some longtime people getting primaried as well. So it's going to be fun. And I'm excited to continue to get to meet you. With that, I'll open it for questions.
Have any questions?
I'm just glad you're
here. Welcome. And yeah, that it was totally baptism by fire. But we were very fortunate in that you were an experienced government relations person. So you knew how the building worked and you know how legislation works. So it was just getting to know our little corner of the world a little bit better. But it sounds like you adapted to that well. And I will say, not only serving on the Board of Education where I get to, I also represent Washington County on the Legislative Policy Committee. So we get weekly updates and I really appreciate the collaboration that happens between the Oregon School Board Association, between COSA with all of the school administrators, as well as OWASBO, the business managers, and the ESDs, the statewide ESD. I mean, the whole alphabet soup that works very collaboratively to try to follow all of this. So the only thing I was going to add to, on top of the other things that we are, most of us do not have to pay attention to what the Board of Education is doing. They work with the Oregon Department of Education. The Oregon Department of Education legislature passes a bill. It's up to ODE to make the rules. And with Senate Bill 141, the accountability bill, they left a lot of big holes and a lot of big lifts up to Oregon Department of Education. And it really becomes just a Board of Education rubber stamps what ODE wants rather than, vetting. That's not the place to vet. And there's other parts that do that, technical advisory committees, ORCA, that it goes through. But the one thing I do want the board here to be aware of is not only is it the assessments and the different, but the Board of Education will be looking at changing how we as school districts, how we as an ESD keeps track of our funding through our chart of accounts. And that is going to be a major change, and it is going to mean repercussions all the way down the road. There is not a lot that we as a board except to be aware of, but if we are out in our communities, making sure that our school districts know to work with their business managers and let the Oregon Department of Education know this is I'm editorializing here, that this is literally going to take funds that we are going to have to buy new software, we're gonna have to hire new people, we're gonna have to provide PD, we're gonna have to, and these are folks that do not interface with our children for outcome. It is adding to, and it will be money that we will have to take as school boards in our budgeting, making decisions on. And I just want the folks at the Oregon Department of Education, I want our legislators to know this is what they are putting, they are forcing us as school boards to make decisions on. And I understand the why. I just do not understand working with us, boots on the ground, that have to make these decisions. So I hope that you can use your role if we need to keep reaching out to whatever decision makers they, and I don't know who they are, but I'm going to keep working on decision makers, and I hope that we can use to be a voice for all of our districts that take part in this. So that is my stump speech, and I'm sorry, but I really do appreciate that we have your advocacy there for us.
Yeah, and Chair Timchuk, I'll just say two things on that specific thing that's coming out. One, I've talked to Jordan a little bit about it, so I know this much, not enough to be dangerous. And it is something that we'll be looking at. And I think administrative rules are sometimes where the biggest changes happen, right? Where we see the biggest swing from policy intent. And I think a lot of my job and other people who are government affairs folks is to remind people what the legislature said and what the legislative intent was. And then second, good news-ish. Senator Solomon and Senator Lieber have both kind of asked of the broader education lobby to kind of come up with a list of like unfunded mandates. And I think this funds, like even in administrative rules, this falls pretty square in the middle of it to say, you know, here are all the ways that you're kind of adding costs. So thanks for bringing that up. And I will add this particular one and the unintended consequence of it to that list.
And it's would have been nice to ask for that before the short session started.
Yes.
You like dropped the mic, so I gotta know what to do now, but just for us to know in the room, and you know, like this is a public meeting. It's on YouTube. I do want to put out in space like the kinds of numbers we're talking about here on this particular rule adoption. Jordan has done back of the napkin, just basic gross math on what it will take for a business office in a school district to accomplish this, and the front office people in schools to actually input the activities into the systems to actually accomplish this. And it's at the $80 million per year number. Just think about like what we just went through to fight for $6 million to get back into outdoor schools so we can actually provide this program that's important to Oregonians. That's what we're talking about. Like it's that level of money. It's a lot. And so can't wait to see that list of unfunded mandates and all the price tags connected, but that's a big one that's on the horizon.
Again, we're glad to have you here and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, first read of policies, ACB, CPA, IGB, HD. Catherine.
Okay, Madam Chair, members of the board, it's my pleasure to bring three policies for you tonight for your consideration. And policy ACB, Every Student Belongs, that's one that we kicked around in the BPAC committee. And background on that, September 2020, the Oregon State Board of Education passed OAR 581-022-2312, called All Students Belong, and we had adopted our initial policy after that. In 2021, the State Board of Education passed a House bill that addressed similar issues, but the language between those two did not match up. And so then in October of 2021, the State Board of Education amended the language in the rule to more closely match. So we've got more alignment between both of those, and that is the impetus for the changes you see in Every Student Belongs. For policy CPA, the layoff and recall for administrators, the important piece in there is the footnote that addresses the necessary consideration for cultural or linguistic expertise to apply to potential layoff and recall for administrators. So you'll see that change there. And then finally, IGBHD, the program exemptions. The proposed language changes there match up identically to OAR 581-021-0009. And basically, it explains the process in more detail about what parents or emancipated students need to do in order to request that program exemption. So those are the updates for those three policies. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and then we'll bring it back next time for adoption.
Board members, any questions? All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, administrative reports, superintendent.
Well, I've been looking here at the clock tick away and what the reports are chock full of like really amazing stuff. I especially love the report from our K-12 special education director, Ron Davis. She's talking about Ryan Anderson. And explained a little bit about what's happening at Levi Anderson and just the growth that the boys in that program get to make in a program like that. I thought it was really inspiring, but I'm happy to take any questions that the board might have on other reports.
Any questions for the superintendent? Administrative reports. Again, we really appreciate getting those reports and having the opportunity to read them.
Thank you.
Okay, now on to action items. First up is approved revised personal service contract list. Oh, Jordan.
Thank you, Chair Timchuk. This is an RFP that was issued. I'll try to be brief here in the interest of time. We issued an RFP 5 years ago for these kinds of services. These are speech pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, those kinds of nurses, school nurses. We only use these services in a contracted format when we have a position posted, but we have not been successful in filling that position. So these contractors get used in hard to fill positions or to bridge between staff members. We issued an RFP 5 years ago. We've been operating under those contracts for 5 years. Just as a best practice, we wanted to test the market again. We do have a few vendors who were not successful in this process, but do still have active contracts with us, so they will still be allowed to work with us over the next year. But the 12 listed here are the vendors that we're recommending to the board for what we call qualification. It gives us authorization to execute contracts with these 12 firms so that we have a pool that we can pull from because any one staffing agency can't provide what we need at any given time. So we like to have a pool. The revision aspect of it is that there is a company called Valley Speech Pathology. At the time of submitting their proposal, did not have COVID certification, but did obtain it before we issued our intent to award. COVID certification is a process that businesses can go through with the state of Oregon to verify or certify that they're women or minority owned. That's a gross oversimplification, but just for the sake of what this is in alignment with the board's policy that we try to use local vendors when possible, that we emphasize women and minority owned businesses in our procurement. So we gave extra points to any businesses that are COVID certified. So this company submitted a protest after we did the intent to award and said, hey, we didn't have it when we submitted the proposal, but we do now have COVID certification. Would you be willing to consider it? And again, because it's in alignment with the board's policy and with our stated values and our strategic plan, it seemed appropriate to honor that protest. So I added Valley Speech in yesterday. So to talk about all the vendors, I just want to talk about that one specifically because it is the one that got added late and I didn't want to make it seem like I was trying to shove something in under the radar. But adding the 10 preference points did get their score above the 80 benchmark that we established for qualifying our vendors. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions about the personal service contract from Jordan? Appreciate the explanation and walking us through that. Thank you. Okay, next up is, oh, it's an action item. Oh my gosh.
I will move to approve the professional services contractor pool as presented.
I'll second.
Second.
Did we get both of those? Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt the personal services contract. Is there any discussion about the motion? Seeing none, we'll call question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next action item, adopt resolution 26-009, narrow diversity celebration week. Lyra, where are you?
Hello.
You're up.
Greetings. Chair and board members, we have the honor of recognizing Neurodiversity Celebration Week. It's next week. And we present a resolution celebrating that week, in particular, building upon our ongoing commitment to fostering inclusive and equitable learning environments that embrace the strengths and the talents of all students, educators, and staff, including those who identify as neurodivergent or neurodiverse. And that includes identities that talk about differences in cognition, in sensory processing, and communication. And we recognize that neurodiversity shifts the focus from the neurodiversity, particularly neurodiversity celebration, shifts the focus from deficits to strengths and fosters environments where all learners and staff can celebrate and belong. And so through this celebration, it's an evidence-informed way to kind of raise awareness and also reduce stigma and promote an inclusive practice across all of our classrooms and our district operations. And so in addition to the resolution that is before you, we also are providing a set of recommended resources and action steps for educators, for administrators and community members to deepen their understanding of what neurodiversity is, and also take meaningful steps toward fostering inclusion in their environments. In the resources are everything from books that are available. There's some really good ones that I've recently been able to read all the way through. There's also 2 films that we have that were recommended to us to bring as far as a resource is concerned. With that, I'll leave that to you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept this resolution as I stated.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt resolution 26-009, neurodiversity celebration week as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
Chair, I have a comment.
Yes.
As a student who, or as an individual who grew up as a neurodivergent student, I just want to thank you so much for highlighting this. Also, being a father of a couple of neurodivergent kids, I just want to thank you so much. And this is so well appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next order of business. I will give the floor back to you, Mario, for Arab American Heritage Month.
Thank you very much. Going directly this time into the resolution itself, whereas Arab Americans are people who live in the United States and are of Arab descent. Arab is a cultural and linguistic term and includes people of many faiths, races, and ethnicities whose ancestry is rooted in any of the 22 Arab countries that span North Africa and Western Asia. And whereas Arab Americans number nearly 4 million in the United States, with more than 30,000 living in Oregon and roughly 10,000 in our service area, contributing to the social, cultural, academic, and civic and economic life of our communities. And whereas Arab American communities reflect rich linguistic, religious, and cultural diversity, including people of many faiths, such as Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Jews, and a wide range of Arabic dialects and cultural traditions, which strengthen the social and civic fabric of our schools and our communities. And whereas Arab American students, families, and staff too often experience discrimination and xenophobia and stereotyping, and the recognition of Arab American Heritage Month is an opportunity for us as Northwest Regional ESD to reaffirm its commitment to reject prejudice, protect civil rights, and cultivate welcoming, safe, and affirming learning environments for all. And whereas integrating Arab American histories, literature, languages, and perspectives into classrooms, instruction, and school activities supports culturally sustaining pedagogy, deepens students' historical and civic understanding, and prepares learners to participate respectfully and effectively in a diverse democracy. And whereas Arab American Heritage Month, celebrated in April, recognizes the long and continuing contributions of Arab Americans to the arts and sciences and businesses and education and civic life and public service, and promotes increased understanding of Arabic cultures and history, now therefore be it resolved by the members of the Northwest Regional ESD Board that we will recognize Arab American Heritage Month and honor the many contributions of Arab Americans have made and continue to make in our schools, community, and nation. We encourage all schools and programs and staff to observe Arab American Heritage Month by promoting inclusive learning opportunities that intentionally reflect Arab American histories, cultures, and contributions, and by integrating culturally responsive materials into our classroom. We direct the superintendent or designee, such as myself, to share the resolution with Northwest Regional ESD staff. We'll share it with component districts and families and community partners, providing guidance and support resources in our curriculum, classroom, and activities. We encourage our component districts, as well as ourselves as the ESD, to partner with Arab American community organizations and cultural institutions to ensure that we have authentic community voices and perspectives that are centered in our educational activities and our celebration. And finally, we affirm our ongoing commitment to equity and understanding and belonging for students, for staff, for families of Arab descent, and to the development of learning environments that value diverse identities and experiences. And with that, I turn it to you. And as usual, we have a slew of resources from our committee partners to check out in the form of books, articles, webinars, videos, and lesson plans.
As usual, great job. Thank you so much for that wonderful information and all those resources. Is there a motion?
I move we approve Resolution 2610, Arab American Heritage Month as presented.
Russell,
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we adopt Resolution 26-010, Arab American Heritage Month as presented. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, our next order of business is a complaint from KLAR, parentheses 1. And according to our rules of our board, we were able to hear this in our work session, executive session that we had earlier this evening, according to ORS 192.660, parentheses 2, parentheses B, to consider the dismissal or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent who does not request an open hearing. So this was discussed earlier this evening by the board in executive session. Is there any discussion to the information that was presented earlier?
Chair. Yes. Thank you, Chair Timchak. I do, as I read through it, a couple of points for me. One specific example referenced in ODE submission, which is in process. So the second question that I have, Superintendent Goldman, if you could update the board, there was a reference to the board unanimously directing the superintendent to explore the use of facilitated communication expert to provide a report to the board last spring. So if you could give us an update on that particular piece, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question, and just slight correction to that. The board strongly recommended and actually explicitly did not direct me to do that, but strongly recommended that we try to improve communications, et cetera. And I will say that both parties, the Northwest Education Association, NWEA, our licensed labor union, and the ESD have both expressed willingness and desire to engage in kind of a third party mediated session to try to improve our communications, try to understand the purpose of some of the structures that we have, like labor management, and like what those things should look like and how we can improve these processes. But it has been very difficult to schedule, not only because of our own schedules or the association schedules, but there is a high demand for mediated services, especially from the Employee Relations Board, which was our first, where we had both parties had agreed that we would like to pursue some support. So we did have conversations with one of the mediation leaders at the ERB to provide some training. And we couldn't get it scheduled. And then they got pulled into mediations for labor disputes in school districts and higher ed and et cetera across the state. And so I know that one of the association leads, they reached out to somebody at the University of Washington that they knew to try to help us do some work. But we have, I think that had fizzled out. I know Catherine had reached out to another party to try to get some facilitated support. So all this to say, I don't think that either party is resistant at all to trying to do some work together. It has been hard to schedule. Obviously, we haven't been able to schedule it. And people who do this work are in very high demand, and they're not very available on our limited schedules. I will end with, we're heading into a bargain with our association. I think everybody wants it to go as well as it possibly can. Of course, it is a negotiation and it will be challenging because it is always challenging. They are challenging conversations. I know that we have every intention of trying to improve our relationship as we go. But that's basically the status right now. I know that we are still looking to engage in third-party support, but we have not been able to land that yet.
Thank you, Superintendent. And Madam Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any other board members have any questions or comments? So the board has reviewed the complaint that was received. Is there a motion for further action? With no motion, the complaint has been heard and disposed with. All right, are there any board comments this evening? Chris?
I just want to, everybody should have received an invitation to the foundation fundraiser on April 2nd at Miller Nash, which is a wonderful, fun event with good food and drink and all kinds of things. And I would recommend anybody who's available to please come, raise your paddle. And if you can't come, you can still donate.
Any other board comments? All right. With that, I will see all of you hopefully on April 8th. We will be gathering at 6 o'clock at the Tillamook Bay Community College to see a new expansion there and get a tour from our fellow board member, Paul Carroll. So with that, we are adjourned.
It's not just that.